Thank you for listening to this post. As you can see, we've been censored, and if you get this message, I appreciate that you would like my post and help support us. We are students, and what we've learned in our, well, I'd say education, learning from the headline news, the interpretation is to say that today is like 9/11 all over again. What I saw in this post should remind you of the days prior to 9/11. If you were alive during that time or you were too young to remember, allow me to remind you that day was a very incredible day, and it marked a change in America. And what happened days before that, we would never even recognize the America it is today. Days before that, America was really kind of, in the, I want to say Stone Ages when it came to the internet. And, gradually we became accustomed to using it as a social media platform or connecting with new people, getting to know somebody, good and bad. We've all had our fair share of problems coming from social media. And I guess at one point when I first got to meet people on social media, the person they met on social media and who I am one-on-one is a different person, because I thought, well, they couldn't possibly not like what I have to say. But it turns out I didn't always know how to communicate it. And I realized one of the things I had a hurdle in this is learn how to use social media in a practical sense. So, again, we're learning how to do this. But I could not replace somebody who's been in the media for a good portion of their lifetime. So when I look at somebody like Bill O'Reilly, who's really kind of been one of the people we learned from. Like I was telling my friend, like I didn't know anything about politics, and sometimes I wonder if I do. But I learned, and one of the first persons I put on, at least on our news channel, was Fox News, and that's who we learned from. We learned about the topics of the day. He covered it, I'd say, fairly. I mean, we weren't really keen on who's left or right, and then I started following people like Alex Jones and trying to get a better idea about multimedia. And in fact, one of my very close friends was in journalism for a long time, a veteran journalist. So I look at this as really kind of a challenge, because to me, to see Bill O'Reilly censored or even taken off the air and replaced with Bob Beckel and Juan Williams, that came very startling. But some of these other news reports from Dave Hodges, I found incredible. It reminds me of 9/11. That's where I started with, and I'm going to end it here. But when you see a report where Texas Rangers and other police departments throughout the United States are warning about this terror cells, it reminds me of kind of the concerns we had the days after 9/11. What would they do to root out this threat, okay? And then the war on terrorism began. That was termed by President George W. Bush. A lot of people believed that guerrilla warfare worldwide would be the way we would have to go about fighting against terrorism. But even then, terrorism wasn't what it is today. I was stunned that we came that far from 2001 to 2007, that we were willing to elect a man that we really didn't know who he was. His records weren't released, and his name was Barack Obama, which investigators, and we're talking about people who've had career law enforcement background, discovered that there were some discrepancies. And now today we're seeing a deputy sheriff who has been running his county, possibly facing jail next month, going to trial. And then when I see this report about deputy sheriffs and police departments are concerned that ISIS could easily take over a city. Well, let me say this to you. This is not something that you probably haven't heard about. Maybe you know about it, or you're learning about it. But if you were born around that time before 9/11, you might not have understood the America we were before, because we were in the Stone Ages. A lot of people, live very simple lives, farming, and we're still very simple people. We still have to get a paycheck. We still have to pay our bills, and we have to do it in a way that's kind of, I'd say, moral. And a lot of us may have run into problems where we face those challenges. And I know a lot of people, including people around me that I grew up with, that were faced with those challenges and resorted to maybe working in a strip club. I mean, people have to do what they have to do, right? And all of us face challenges on how to pay our bills, or go to school. And one of the things I had to do is I had to go on the bus every day, get to class, and go to school that I knew I wasn't equipped for. But learning how to do this stuff on media, multimedia, one of the things I ran into is that I wasn't equipped with the skills. I didn't have really enough experience to be in the background, but I had been working as a key grip and did background stuff. And one of the things about production is learning how to produce and do things. And I've learned it, but there are a lot of challenges, learning the language, being able to be on a set, building a set, breaking it down, and keeping up with that pace. But at 46 years old, there's things I know I have some limitations now that, over 20 years ago, I didn't have these challenges. And, so we resort to having a YouTube channel and learning how to better, manage a YouTube page. Because, again, it goes back to working, paying bills, and getting to school and getting to class and getting everybody off, throughout the day, The things that forced me at home, though, is because I had a family emergency. And keeping up a YouTube channel is very time consuming, but keeping up with the news is just that much more challenging. So I like to think that when we go to these news channels, when I looked at Bill O'Reilly in 2001 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, that, he was the source of news that we looked to. And yeah, I could see a lot of people disagreed with Bill, but Bill was very good at reporting. He always tried to be pretty fair. But the idea that Fox News is now promoting Juan Williams and Bob Beckel, I'm not going to be as quick to go to Fox News. I still like Martha McCallum. I like a lot of the hosts on Fox News, and I don't know what's happening at Fox News, and I'm not one of those people that's really up to par with what's going on. But to see Bill O'Reilly acts the way he was, it's obvious that news isn't going to be reported the same way as they censor YouTube channels. Where do you get that news? And I can tell you there's plenty of channels here where, it's just so much news that I don't know how we can keep up. I'm pretty simple. If we go to a channel, it takes a lot of time to keep up. It is very time consuming. And if you have a job, you don't have the time to keep up with all of it. And, these news articles I'll put below, a reason I did that is because I wanted to do something to discuss and open it up for an opportunity for us to talk more about how to do multimedia, whether it's on YouTube, Vimeo, just ways to improve. And we started the Amateur Radio Network because I realized that some of us who are students in film school or learning from one another, whether it to be profitable. The idea is that you want to be able to have profits that can match your, level of work. And there are a lot of people very good at this. So I invite you, if you want to be a member of the Amateur Radio Network, that we would have a way that we could support ourselves and help one another, whether you're an amateur radio host, a ham radio operator, or a professional in the media. We're here to learn from each other. And when I first started out, I was applying to Columbia Film School, and those schools all closed up. and they don't even have a film school here anymore. But my area of expertise was not just to be a background person. It was to learn how to do all other parts of the job, working behind the scenes. And if you were to look at what's going on, I consider today being day one. Day one, taking everything we've learned, everything we've accomplished, and trying to reformat it. And if you're seeing some changes to our YouTube channel and our amateur radio network, that's what we're planning to do now. And we're making these changes right away. And I have been making the changes and doing different types of things, just testing it out and seeing what works, what doesn't. So if you have any suggestions or comments, we're open for suggestions, how we can maybe change it, how we can maybe work towards different goals. But at our Vimo channel, it's Amateur Radio Network, and we welcome anyone. If you want to email me, we have several different projects. We have one project which we've been working with the state legislators regarding child safety projects, and there's another project which is a multimedia project, and also one for profit projects. If you listen to my previous post, you know that our noble cause, of course, is we're not trying to capitalize on anyone's tragedy. But what I find really difficult is what's happening in social media. I was not really a fan of social media. I like meeting a lot of nice people. There are a lot of great people that I've gotten to meet. But I'm not a fan of the social media and haven't been. I think it's way too time consuming to keep up with friends and social life. And when you have demands of family and responsibility, your social life kind of takes a back seat. You know, working and going to school and keeping up with family is a lot of work. And we don't want to substitute social media for relationships. But I know a lot of people don't get a chance to keep up with their friends and family. So we hope that we can use social media to keep up, but we don't always have the time to. So I sense it's a time to start talking about how to have a relationship with other people outside of social media. If you've connected on Facebook or you're connected on Twitter, do you meet up? Do you set up and do you go on blind dates? Whatever, you know, I'm not a big keen on that either. I kind of shy away from a lot of social situations as it is, and I don't want to isolate and give up all this free time just to be on Facebook or Twitter or Gab. Outside of that, we have other demands. We have exercise and fitness and other important projects that, like this, for example. This was one of the projects we worked on with my nephew. He was paralyzed in a car accident in November of 2015, and it was really hard for us to put ourselves out there. You know, I have no idea how to fundraise, but we managed to accomplish something here, and we did raise money, and it kind of dried up from there. And it's really tough if you're not, you know, one of those people that's savvy in this area. It's really hard to ask for money for causes or projects, you know. I don't know anyone that goes on there looking for ways to fund projects, but here's the downside of it. There are people that are funding their projects. There are people that give to good causes, and they do support one another. I'm not sure if we went about it wrong or right, but we managed to do this, and we did a very good job at it. And I'm very grateful for the support we got from our friends on our Facebook page. My sister had a lot of support and still does. But, you know, what concerns me is that there are challenges that don't often resort to financial means of support. Sometimes you just need support. Maybe you just need your friends to contact you, write a letter. The old-fashioned things, the things that used to work before the internet, you know, when we were in the Stone Age. One of the things that's absent from our relationships is getting out and exercising, spending time with friends. That has somehow in all this kind of fizzled out. And I kind of look at today as day one for some of us, because I realized that we've learned a lot on social media, maybe things we didn't want to know, okay? But I don't, absent of that, you know, you are not your problem, okay? The only thing is people are not defined by what their circumstances are. And looking at this, that doesn't define us. It's what we do with it. And those are the things that we're learning better today. My hope is that all of you who follow me on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Gab or all these other... Okay, I just said it all. That's my cartoon version of me, by the way. Some of you don't know what I look like, but that's that cartoon version of me. As you know, I told you, I'm much older. You know, I was a late bloomer, and I'm learning better how to get kind of the look and feel of social media. And I realized that while social media is the future for a lot of people, it's not. Still am a little guarded. No, in fact, I'm very guarded about putting out news topics because I realize we're going to be censored anyway. And because of the topics we cover for obvious reasons. But if you do support our causes and you want to join in the project or go to Amateur Radio Network and support us, whether you're a professional or amateur, please do so. I'll put all the information in the description box below. But as for me, I do see the challenges just like I did before we started a social page or a YouTube page or MySpace. And one of the things I think we have been able to accomplish, though, is learning how to do better at audio and videography. And part of what I hope we can accomplish from here, day one, is that we want to see how we can start Amateur Radio Network and change it up into a film project or film school or documentary. And that's where it's been going for some time. So if you want to maybe help in this project or volunteer your time, again, please go to Amateur Radio Network, and the information is below in this description box. I recognize there are a lot of people that have to get to work today, and so do we. So we don't want to eat up too much time. We want to get into a practice of scheduling. We're not going to do all these posts at random anymore. We got to get on a new schedule. So you'll see a lot of new changes and updates in our description of our audio. I have to make these changes because we got to get back onto a schedule and get some routine back into our lives, because, you know, it has been hard to keep up with a lot of this changes on YouTube and the news stories as it is. So help each other seems to give us more free time, and that's why I want to do the Amateur Radio Network, because it helps us manage time differently. And for that reason, it gives us more time to have time with our friends and family. And we do got to get into a practice of managing our time. So these schedule changes have to happen anyway. And less time to be social, but more time to have free time to do things like this. My favorite thing to do, dance. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Phil Project at Planet Radio. We started out at 103.3 FM and 1370 AM in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2015. Amateur Radio Network is a part of a film project where we're learning how to be a better radio host, news host, story gather, fact-finding, all that stuff. But we started at 103.3 FM and 1370 AM, Charlotte, North Carolina. At least I did it for the most part. I wanted to take a minute, though, to kind of express to all of you that putting together a network like this is not an easy task. So if you have experience in film school or have a background doing audio and videography, we're asking for your support, volunteer your time, or even help us gather information. But the thing is that starting an amateur radio network, for those who are trying to learn how to do ham radio, that was the inspiration behind Amateur Radio Network. So one of the things I'm running into, though, is money and, of course, getting back on air. And we faced a lot of challenges. It's really difficult, though, because you can meet somebody who is in a position to help you, and they may not be able to do that. A lot of it is really hard, and the kind of topics we cover, you're not going to be able to get onto a news channel by today's standards. That's why I do think there is a new opportunity opening up for people who want to start a network or work together, whether you're a professional or amateur, because looking at what's going on Conservative news is in exile. So I think this is a big change that is happening right before us, and it could be an opportunity for a lot of us to come together who normally would never even meet, much less talk. And I want to open this opportunity for anyone who wants to start somewhere, today being day one, hoping no matter where you come from in your background and media level experience, we have an opportunity to create a network where we can help each other, even start a different news channel altogether. That has been kind of where it's been going. As you can see, I started out at a radio station, and it's hard to get back on air after having some setbacks medically. But these are some of the things that are happening. For some people, the changes are happening quite quickly. We just looked at the example of what happened to Bill O'Reilly. Obviously, the news is changing, but it's an opportunity, I believe, for us to come together who normally, again, wouldn't know each other, much less come together, whether we're amateur or professionals, had maybe some personal setbacks or lost a job. We need to come together. I do believe this change is an opportunity for us to come together. And as you can see, I'm putting some show images up of stuff I've worked on, just audio, advertising, memes, things like this. Things that were successful. So I'm going to end it here because part of the project is to get back to work. And if you want to support or be a part of this project or want to just offer some advice or suggestions, we're open to that. No, we're not looking for a bunch of critical people thumbing everything down we do. Of course, we're learning. That's the whole point. We're just students. But we want to continue to do this in a practical sense, and by supporting us and by working together, this is an opportunity. As you see, a lot of news media, very good news media hosts that are getting the axe, and they're out of their contracts. That's a good thing. That's actually a positive step. It frees them up to be independent, or maybe even do what we're doing, amateur radio network, or even work with us all together, because we have the ways and means to do that now. So hopefully this is an opportunity to start a school. I would love to see Bill O'Reilly become a film school teacher and teach us how to do this. Maybe that would be the next step in his career. He is a teacher by trade, so you never know. I mean, there's opportunities like that we may end up having at some point. Nonetheless, I'm very optimistic about what's in front of us. I see this setbacks are sometimes opportunities. Sometimes those doors have to close in order to open up other opportunities. And, sometimes it gets back to getting to the basics. And suddenly when you look at these really good news hosts get the axe, there might be some real reasons like that. But putting people's personal business out there is hard for anyone. So I look forward that maybe sometime very soon we might actually talk to Bill O'Reilly. And he might get back to what he really does, is be a teacher or an instructor, or, just continue what he's doing. But it's always like that. One door closes and other doors open up. So I hope for those veteran journalists that I know personally and we work together, or maybe we've worked on projects, or maybe we know each other and we're very close friends, that you would support the Amateur Radio Network, and let's get behind us and let's make those opportunities into something better. Anyway, so we want to make this opportunity be an opportunity for anyone who wants to improve their multimedia, social skills, etc. So please look for us and our information below. Thank you. This broadcast is for anybody that would like to advance as an amateur or professional. Thank you.